Hi guys, welcome to our book club. Finally, we have arrived to the fourth session of this reading adventure. Currently, we are reading Persepolis, a graphic novel written by Marjane Satrapi, a French-Iranian girl who is at the same time the protagonist of our book. The story tells us her life during her childhood, adolescence, and young adulthood while she's living in her country. This video will cover from chapter 25 to chapter 32, so let's just start. Welcome back guys. As I told you in the introduction of this video, today we will cover from chapter 25 to chapter 32. But before that, let's just remember a little bit what happened in previous chapters. So remember that Marjane and her family are living in Iran. They already survived a revolution against the king, and after the revolution, some fundamentalist, nationalist people that they are very strict took the power. As a consequence, they start being, following some very strict rules, like the way they dress, the way they behave, etc., etc. And also we have that a war started against Iraq. Not just they are fighting inside their country, but also outside. So as a consequence, we know and we have read a lot of sad situations with young people, with Marjane's acquaintances, also, inside her family. And because of that, her parents are decided to send her to Austria. In Austria, remember that she's 14 years old. In Austria, she is living by herself. She got to know some new people. For example, we have Lucia, that is a German girl. We also have Julie, we have Momo, we have the two Swiss brothers that they are her friends in the school. And well, so far we know that Marjane it's a little bit rebel. She cannot just stay quiet when she sees some injustices. So as a consequence, she is a little bit in troubles when she responds in a very not rude way, but she tried to defend her culture when the nuns told her that Iranian people didn't have education. As a consequence, she needed to move with Julie and her mother. And Julie is a French girl who at the same time is quite open to the world, it's quite open to a lot of stuff. So for Marjane, that she comes from a very, very traditional country, it's a little bit difficult to fit in, but she's doing her best. So far, that is what happened. Right now, Marjane is living in Austria. She's living with Julie and her mother. And let's just start what happened in the next chapters. So as you may see, I am already sharing my screen. We have here the next chapter, chapter 25, that is called The Vegetable. So here Marjane is telling us that she is growing up so fast. So fast. That, she is here when she's 15. And then at 16, she grew up a lot. Also, her face, her body is, going through some changes. And at some point, she feels like a monster because, it's like here with adolescents, with teenagers, that they grew up and they look like spaghetti. They are not really, with good proportions. So here is the same. And something to remark is that a mark appears in Marjane's nose. So now we have that this is her new face. Continuing that, we have here that she is a little bit unsatisfied with her look. So she is trying new looks, and that's why she began with this punk look. That, little by little, she was cutting one side of her hair, then the other, then she tried with a new hairstyle, and at the end, she ended up like this. Her friends seems to like her, and as a consequence, she became a little bit more popular in her school, so she became a hairdresser. She was also cutting her classmates' hair. And continue with this. We have here that her friends, like as she is telling us that they are together, they are spending time together, but at the same time they are smoking weed. So she says that, well, like she remembers some conversations with her parents where they said, like, well, smoking weed, smoking, doing some drugs is like becoming a vegetable because you don't move, you don't do anything. So she says that she remembers the conversation with her parents. So instead of just rejecting because she needs to fit in, she is just like faking. She says that she inhaled the smoke. She just, like keep it in her mouth, and where her friends are distracted, she just, like poking her eyes so they would be red. And well, later on, we have here that she is having some feelings. She doesn't know how to really feel because we have that she is smoking, she is, like changing her style, and her parents are just like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, you're doing fine. Oh, excellent. Remember to be to take care of your body, remember to be healthy. And she is just, like, okay, I won't tell them because I feel bad that they are suffering, they are there, and I'm just here smoking with my friends. So, well, we have that she is having these not controversial thoughts or feelings, but contradictory. She wants to be a good girl, but at the same time, she wants to fit in the society she's living, so that's why. And later on, we have that also he feels like a hypocrite because every time she sees something on TV about Iran, about the war, she cannot stand it, so she changed the channel. She prefers to watch something else. Even with, like when her friends ask her, like, hey, are you okay? I heard what happened in your country. She lied. However, she says that every time she is sleeping, she dreams about the experiences she lived. So even though if she wants to escape a little bit of her reality, her dreams don't allow her to do it. So here we have that one day, because she was having these kind of issues inside her, like she didn't feel part of the country she's living, but at the same time she's tired that everybody talks about war or asks her about war. One day that she is in a bar, she lies. Instead of saying like, oh yes, I'm Iranian, she lied and she said like she was French. So she felt so bad about it, because remember that her grandma gave her an advice that she never need to forget where is she coming from and her culture. So she's having, like these kind of feelings. Later on, she realized that everything was just part of a joke, that this guy that asked her about her life, like her nationality and stuff, it was just the brother of another girl, and that group seems to be a little bit maybe preppish, a little bit, like selfish. Not the kind of friends that Marjane want or need. So we have here that they are in a restaurant, they are having a conversation behind her back, and they are saying that, oh, she's super weird, she's crazy, she even lied about her nationality. Probably she lied because she has been making up all these stories about war, all these stories about people who die around her, and probably her parents didn't care about her, so that's why they abandoned her. So she is super upset. She got angry, and at the end, we have that she just yelled at them and said like, "Oh yes, I'm Iranian, and I'm proud of it." So, well, She cries a little bit, and she kind of understood what her grandmother meant when she told her that she needs to be proud of her, or she needs to love her before anything else. So as a consequence, oh yeah, we have, like the that is the end of the chapter. Then we have the horse, and here we have that it has happened already, or it has passed already a year and a half. So Julie and her mother, they change her house. They move to another country. It says here have left Vietnam. They didn't say where. And she moved to a house to co-live with other people. So this is the name. I don't know how to pronounce it, guys. It is in German. So she moved to a co-living house. That's it. So in this house, she said that it's a little bit happy because she has her own room, her own space, and she is living with 8 men. They are gay people, so that's why she is not worried about it. And also, she mentioned that she will stay here for 4 months. So, because she moved, she has a little bit more time, and suddenly she received a call saying that her mother is coming to visit her. So she's super happy. She is, like preparing all her stuff. She's preparing herself to receive her mother because the last time she saw her, it was 19 months ago. So here we have that when she received her mother, she saw that she's totally different. Like, for example, her hair, it's now gray. And she remembered the last time she saw her, it was brown, it was brunette. So also, she mentioned that, well, probably you are, as a teenager, you are growing up, but your parents are not growing up, but growing old. So she is a little bit more conscious that, well, time passes by. And here we have that, like Marjane took her mother to the house. She introduced her to the 8 men she's living with. And also she told her mother, like, oh, but you have to be sure, like, they are really nice people because they are gay. Her mother is not very, it's not against the idea, but she's a little bit surprised. And then she understood, like, well, it's okay, it's Europe, and they have other kind of traditions and culture. So here we have that at the beginning, probably, even if she was against it, or she had these controversial thoughts about her daughter living with 8 men. So here we have that later on, she was teaching how to say I love you in person, sorry, to one of his roommates because he found an Iranian boy. So later on, we have a very funny situation because Marjane says that since they haven't seen in a very long time, their conversations are jumping from one topic to another topic. So they are not really following a line. And at the same time, Marjane prepared some food for her mother, and her mother didn't like it. So Marjane realized that her mother also can lie, even if it is, like a little bit forbidden in their religion. She can lie too. So also here we have that Marjane's mother gave Marjane a letter, and it was her father's letter. And in it says that, well, her father is happy that Marjane is having an easy life, a peaceful life, and that he always think about her. He loves her. So far that is it here. Then we have that they are spending time together. They are taking advantage of the time they have. And, well, when the words weren't enough, they hug. They just, like feel love just by not touching, but maybe caressing. Maybe, like when Marjane's mother stroked Marjane's hair. And that is it. And at the same time, the mom is telling that one of her uncles is living in Germany. So Marjane is like, oh, we are very close. Like, why he's not coming? And Marjane's mother says that her uncle feels a little bit depressed because, when they were in Iran, or when he was in Iran, he had a good job. And right now that he is in Germany, he's nobody. So Marjane's mother is telling her that it's very difficult for people of her age because sometimes I mean, people don't want to give them opportunities or chances to do something else because they are quite old. So Marjane is a little bit sad, but quite happy at the same time because, like her parents are living in Iran and they have their own things. So here we have that they are in a restaurant and Marjane mentioned that her mother stopped speaking to her like if she were a child. Like her mother knew that she grew up already, so she's treating her like a woman. And that's why Marjane's mother asked her for a cigarette. So Marjane says like, "Oh, I don't smoke." But, she cannot lie to her mother because she said that she went through her stuff. So she checked her bag or maybe her room or something else. And Marjane is a little bit upset with that because she is not used to this kind of behaviors. Since she is living alone, well, nobody is pending of her. Nobody is, like reviewing or checking her stuff. So that's why she's a little bit upset. But at the end, she said, like, well, I need to spend time with my mom, so I won't be upset just because of this. And, well, they started smoking together, just telling other kind of stories. And her mother asked Marjane, like, hey, do you know what do you want to do after you finish school? Because I really don't care if you want to dance in a cabaret or if you want to do something else. I just want you to be happy. And Marjane says like, well, I don't know what to do, but thank you so much for the advice. So at the end of this picture, we have that finally Marjane told her mother what happened with the nuns. Remember that the nuns lie, saying that she ran away because she stole some fruit yogurt, and her parents didn't believe it, but they didn't know what happened. So at the end, Marjane is telling her mother that she told them that all nuns were prostitutes before, and that's why she was kind of expelled. And well, her mother is like, oh, that's my girl, but don't do it again. So here we have that. Remember that at the beginning of the chapter, Marjane told us that she was just 4 months in that house, co-living with the men. So because she needs to find a new place, her mother, one time she was walking on the street, she saw an advertisement saying that, like there was an apartment very close. So when they went to see it, they found this doctor that is Dr. Heller, and they are like making some business. They arrive to an agreement, and at the end they are laughing because the tea that the doctor gave them, it wasn't a tea. So they are laughing and they even make a joke that the doctor seems to be, or it has like a horse face. So that is it. And then we have that Marjane here is, like spending the last time, the last days with her mother. She is a little bit sad, but she's taking advantage of every moment. At the end, she mentioned that her mother knew that she would be alone, so she left a bag with a lot of stuff that, Marjane's used for not a long time, but, she was happy while she was using or eating probably the stuff that her mother left her. So here we have that she finally moved to this new house with the doctor. We have, like the chapter 27 that is called Hide and Seek. And we have here that she is living with the doctor. She's super happy. It's super peaceful. And it says that it has even a garden. But the only thing that she didn't like, it was the doctor's dog. Because it was an old dog. And like once per month, the dog was pooping on Marjane's bed. She got super upset one time. She went with the doctor, and the doctor says like, well, I will just change the shit, like take it easy, you're going crazy. And Marjane is like, how come, this is a bad behavior. But well, anyways. And then we have that at school Marjane is not having friends. Like Julie left Vienna with her mother, Mama was expelled, And the two Swiss brothers, they returned to Switzerland. So now she's alone, but she doesn't care too much. And since she is like a little bit quiet, a lot of people is interested in her, but she's like, I don't care. I am not interested in anybody. And we realize that Marjane has a boyfriend. His name is Enrique. It's, like half Austrian, half Spanish. And they are spending good time. Marjane told us that he is 20 years. So probably it's like 5 or 4 years older than Marjane. And well, they are spending good time. He plays the violin. Everything is so cool. Until one day, here we have that Enrique invites Marjane to an anarchist party. So remember that Momo was very interested in anarchy, and that's why he told Marjane about Bakunin, an author. Well, she is like, finally, I will learn a little bit about anarchists, and it will be like in my country. I will be with some people, maybe we will have some battles, and she was very excited about it. But when they arrived to the party, Marjane was disappointed. First of all, because they drive very far into a forest. And secondly, because when they arrived, she saw a lot of people just playing hide and seek, escondidillas. And she said like, oh, this is it? Come on. And she said that probably her feelings for Enrique just, like decreased a little bit. Later on, she mentioned that because there were sausages and they sang, her love just, like returned to the same level. So here we have that when the night arrived, Marjane was a little bit embarrassed and shy of sleeping just in the same room next to Enrique. She said like, well, like I'm very shy. I came from a traditional country, so just sleeping next to him, it's embarrassing. So that's why, like they asked for a room. And this is Ingrid. This is, I guess, the one of the owners of the house or something like that. But well, she told them like, hey, there is a room, so you can go and have a good night. And Marjane, she mentioned that she was having a platonic love with Enrique because they were just kissing, holding hands, and maybe caressing and stuff like that. So finally she said like, oh, today is the day. I don't want to be a virgin anymore. I want to, like to make love with him because I know that he loves me, etc., etc. But next day, she mentioned that nothing happened. And she started feeling ugly and fat and rejected because probably he's not enough for Enrique. So when she goes downtown, she saw Enrique with Ingrid. So she started being jealous. Like, oh, he doesn't want me because he likes Ingrid and, like I'm not enough, I'm ugly and this and that. So at the end, we have here a scene when they are just talking alone. And Marjane is expecting him to tell her that he doesn't want her anymore and he will be changed for Ingrid. But we have here something unexpected because instead of just dropping her and change her for Ingrid, he confessed that he may be gay. So Marjane is like, well, I feel so bad, but at the end it's better that he is gay and not that he replaced me with Ingrid. So in the last scene we have that they promise each other to be in contact, to continue being friends, but Marjane says like she was too happy. She was too happy. She was too young to maintain her promise. So probably that was the last time they see each other. And we have here that the friends, it says from the anarchist friends, the school, and also it says Frau Doctor's Heller house. Her life was divided into three. At the same time, remember that the anarchist friends, they were smoking a lot of weed. And she mentioned also some other things like hashish and I don't know what else. But probably just it says mood enhancer, so that will be some substances to change your mood. So because she was smoking a lot, she started being changing, and probably you could see that she didn't sleep well or she wasn't eating well, so her face started looking different. So one of her teachers, it says the physics teacher, started getting worried about her. So he asked her like, hey, what is happening with you? Marjane tried to be like she tries to tell him everything, to be honest, but like the teacher seems not to believe her a lot, and he invites her to his house. So one weekend, Marjane says that she was playing with the twins, with the teacher's daughters, and her grandmother, her mother, the teacher's mother, was, it says here, a French woman of Jewish Moroccan origins. So her mother also knew a little bit about war, a little bit about running away of danger. So that's why they keep a nice conversation. They promised to see Marjane again, but the teacher's wife didn't like her. So Marjane says that that was the last time she was invited to the teacher's house. So here we have that Marjane, after the experience with Enrique, she felt a little bit sad and she wanted to be loved. So that's why she met, I think it's Marcus. Let's see, what is his name? Oh, sorry, it's not Marcus. John Paul. So we have here that John Paul, it was another friend of her school. So one day he invited her to drink something. Marjane was very excited because she said like, finally somebody to love me. So she put her best clothes, she arrived an hour early, and she was waiting for him. But once he arrived, it wasn't as she expected. The guy arrived late, and later they start talking about mathematics. She says that all afternoon they were talking about mathematics because he knew that Marjane was good at it, so he needs some help. That's it. So Marjane says like, come on, how dumb I was. How could I have been so delusional? He had big expectations, and at the end, nothing happened. So she is quite upset with her. And later on, we have that she was enough with boys, so she started spending a lot of time with Ingrid, that it was one of the anarchist friends she had. And Ingrid taught her about meditation, and also she mentioned that they were tripping all the time. They were, like consuming probably weed, probably other kind of substances. But Marjane says like, I prefer to be with her doing that than being just alone in my house. So later on, we have that she is smoking more and more and more. So she is, like probably she looked like a junkie. So at the end, we have, like another situation with a guy. And Marjane, it's already like enough of guys. So she said like, well, last time I had big expectations. So this time, no expectations, like whatever. So we have Mark. This is Mark. And he invited her to a nightclub. So Marjane says like, oh yeah, when do you want to go? Today? Oh yeah, let's go today. She says that she doesn't, she used whatever. And she arrived an hour late. And then when the guy invited her to dance, she said like, oh yeah, let's go dancing. She wasn't very interested in it. And at the end of the date, like the guy proposed, oh well, no, the guy wanted to take Marjane to her house, but he says like, hey, I can take you to your house, but we need to full the tank, and what if we pay 50-50? So Marjane says like, yeah, whatever. So in their way, Mark told her like, "Oh, I like you. I like your indifference. I like your revelry." So he kissed her. And next time we know that they are a couple. Marjane is super happy, but this is just the beginning of problems. Why? Because like her mother is a German woman, and he doesn't like Marjane because he is a migrant, and she says that the relationship is just to take advantage of his own. So the mother just like kick out Marjane of her house, and he mentioned here that a Rose, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that this means like foreigner in a very despective way. So Marjane mentioned that she heard that word from an old guy in a metro one day, so she started recognizing the word, and at the end she's like, well, she doesn't want me here. So here we have that they just, went out, and Mark told Marjan like, well, next time I will see you in your house. So here we have that, in Marjan's house with Dr. Heller. Dr. Heller didn't want Mark there because she thought that Marjan is having a prostitute services, a prostitute business, like some services. And Marjan is like, that is not right. He's my boyfriend. But Dr. Heller, it's like a little bit crazy too. So here we have that Marjane is crying, and since she promised her mother not to insult or not to be in trouble, she doesn't say more to Dr. Heller. That's it. Later on, we have that because Marjane and Mark are spending a lot of time together, Marjane is not going with Ingrid. And when she was with Ingrid, she could get weed and other substances. Since she doesn't go there, and Mark wants to smoke a little bit, he mentioned Marjan that in a cafe they sell, although he has heard that they sell this kind of substances. So he sent Marjan with the excuse that he doesn't have a place to park. Marjan says that she is very scared of it, but at the end she did it and it was so easy. And then Mark just run the voice that Marjane was very brave and he could get joints and weed from this place. So she became a drug dealer. We have here another chapter that is called the Croissant. We have here that Marjane was very, very behind in her studies, and she's about to present the baccalaureate, that is a French exam when they finish high school. So Marjane is a little bit worried, but one day she says that she dreamed of the answers. So she called her mother, and her mother told her like, oh yes, I asked God to help you. So Marjane is studying just these kind of topics that God told her in dreams, and it was true. Marjane says that her mother was always in the right. She was always, asking for her, so that's why she was so lucky in that sense. So we have here that she got very nice notes in that exam, and because her job as drug dealer wasn't like a business, it was more like making favors to her friends, she started working in other kind of jobs. So she was a nanny. We saw here that she was working probably in the post office, and then selling some newspapers. So at the end, those kind of jobs didn't. She wasn't earning a lot of money until she saw a job as a waitress in a restaurant, and she said like, "Oh yeah, I can go there because I speak 3 languages." So when she arrived, the owner told her like, okay, you are hired, but remember, the customer is always right. And as we see here, and also we have heard in so many times, some customers were a little bit in the harassment. So they were pinching, they were probably, saying some stuff that, make uncomfortable Marjane, but she says that in that job she had an ally. It was, if I'm not mistaken, it says, yeah, and it's Svetlana, the Yugoslavian chef. So every time she was a little bit, like sad or it was stressed, the chef asked her, like, what happened? Tell me. Like, oh no, this client like pinched my butt. Oh yeah, and she was doing, like this kind of stuff, like spitting on the food. And well, Marjan says like she was my hero. Later on, we have that when the new year at school started, Marjan was called by the principal. And when she arrived there, the principal told her like, okay, I know your situation, you are very smart, but I want to be honest with you. I don't want my school to be full of substances. I am against students smoking weed. So if you understand, you will stop. And remember that Marjane was the dealer. So she said like, oh yeah, you don't have to mention this twice. She said that she was so scared that she stopped, not selling because she wasn't selling, but making favors with weed. Also, because she was a dealer, she got a lot of merchandise. So she was smoking more and more and more every time. As a consequence, probably the first thing that, like Mark liked about Marjane, like, oh, she's so indifferent, she's so rebel, start playing against her. Because now he was, like lecturing them, like, oh, you shouldn't smoke so much. Another one, like, come on, that is enough. And later on, he was very indifferent. Also, because she was smoking a lot, she started having some problems at her school. She was very sleepy, she was tired, she was insatisfied with her life. Remember that at some point she doesn't feel comfortable because, well, her parents are far. Her country is in war, like he doesn't have enough friends, he doesn't have enough money, etc., etc. But she lied, like, oh, everything is okay, don't worry about it. And we have a lot of idioms in this chapter or in these chapters. For example, here we have by the skin of my teeth. That will be very little because she's explaining that she graduated by, like very little, by the skin of my teeth, like por poco. Por poco no paso, pero sí pasé. So she is, like telling us that she's having problems because she's smoking too much. Later on, we have that Mark started, like his exams, and also he is, like writing a play because he's studying something with the scenic arts. So he wants to become an artist. And also she's mentioning that this Kurt Waldheim was elected president of Austria. So because Mark introduced her to some other friends, they are talking about politics. So she is always giving, like her point of view about war, about like, oh, I don't think, this guy is like Nazis, because if he will be like a Nazi, there will be already some changes, very drastic changes, like in my country. So she put the example of the skinheads, and she said like, well, like I saw them, but later on I just didn't pay attention to them, and now we don't have them anymore. In my country, they were even more mean. They were meaner, they were stronger, they even were torturers. So, like her friend said like, oh, that's interesting. It is always good to have, like another point of view from an outsider. And we have here that they were talking, like politics, etc., etc. And oh yeah, they mentioned here the what is her name? Lucia's parents, that they were living in Tyrol, and they said like, oh well, in those places, people is even more affected to the Nazis. And Marjane says like, oh, that's not true, they were very nice with me. Yeah, because you are a lady. Yeah, because like you are pretty, because you are like this. If you were a boy, if you were having like frizzy hair, the story would be very different. So Marjane start having like questions like, is it true, is it not? So well, there you go. And here we have that, like, since I told you that Mark is grinding his play and he's very focused on his exams and on his like own stuff, they start having some fights because here we have that the president, like this president, has some ideas, and people say that he is like a Nazi. So a lot of students start demonstrating, and Marjane goes with them once in a while. She wants Mark to be with them, but Mark says like, I don't care about that kind of stuff. If you want people to not follow those ideas, we need to educate them, because without education there's nothing. And Marjane, it's against the idea, because like, oh, thanks to people like you, that's why we have these kind of presidents, these kind of people in the power. So they are having some fights, and Marjane says that that was the beginning of the end. So even though they have problems, they are also doing their best in order to continue with their relationship. And they mention here that they spend some time together, and Marjane's birthday is just around the corner. She is planning a trip with a friend, and well, like Mark says like, oh, don't worry, you can go with your friend, and when you return we can celebrate together. So one night before the trip, Marjane says like, oh, it's okay, I can stay with you, and then I will just go to take the train. But Mark said like, oh, don't worry, your house is closer to the train station, so stay in your house and later on we will celebrate. Next day, Marjane woke up very late. She lost her train, and she said like, well, maybe it was a sign of not spending my birthday with my friend. So she wants to surprise Mark. She bought some, like the croissants he liked. And once she arrived to his house, she said like she is very quiet, trying to open the door, entering and more. And she found Mark with another girl. So she says that in her mind she thought that it would be like an American movie, like he will say something like, "Oh, this is not what it looks like I love you, forgive me, and everything." But instead, it was just a fight. She yelled at him, and he yelled back, and he says like, "Get out! I don't want to see you anymore." And she says like, "Well, I never see him again," because she's very sad. We have here that, oh, that is the end. Yeah, she's very sad, and like she is in her house crying, but Dr. Hiller, she is not very sensible. She is not very empathic. She is just like, oh, a brooch disappeared and maybe you took it, you are still there, so I don't want to see you, how you will pay for this. And Marjane is very sad because she mentioned that everything reminds her to Mark, the bed sheets, the poster, the shirts. So she says like I am so sad, I cannot stay here, and there's nobody who helped me to release what I am, like feeling. So she said that she took the most important things, her belongings, and she just went outside. She sat down in a bench. She saw people going to their jobs and then coming back. The night arrived, and she just, started thinking about Mark. And she says like, he was an imbecile, like a dumb person, like a moron, because she started realizing that he didn't want to be in trouble, so she sent her to the cafe to get the weed with the excuse of not parking. And then instead of defending her in front of her mother, he was just like, okay, you need to go. And then she remembers also the first day when, like, Mark um, told her, or yeah, told her like, oh yes, I can take you to your house, but we need to full the tank, so what if we pay 50-50? So at the end, Marjane started realizing that he was playing with her. So also he mentioned something else, and I think it's the worst, because Mark one day told her that her mother stopped giving him money. So he was worried because he needed to work, he needed to go to school, and he won't have time, he won't have anything. And Marjane says like, don't worry, I have some savings. So every time, like, probably they went outside, she paid. And she says that her money finished in 3 months, and it was the money for a whole year, and the money was sent by her parents. So she said like, probably everything was a lie. Her mother loved him so much that she like, wouldn't stop give him money. So probably he was spending the money, like, on this girl. So she's super upset, but at the same time she understands that, they are 19, and since they are 19 years old, well, she was trusting, she saw Mark as a support, as, like, her father, her mother, her friends, her boyfriend, like, it was the only person she was trusting, because she's in another country. So she said like, well, probably that was too much for a kid, so it was also my fault. And since she doesn't want to come back to doctor's Heller house, she says that she is spending some time in the parks, and during the nights she is sleeping in the trams. So the trams are just traveling all night long, and she is just there sleeping. Also, she said that it arrived a point where she had no money, so she started smoking the butts, that it will be the cigarettes, but, like, the small ones. And she started looking for food in the trash. She said like, this is a big change, because before I couldn't eat from another person's plate, and now look at me. Also, she mentioned that since she was spending a lot of nights on the trams, on the, like, the transportation, they start recognizing her, so they forbid her entrance. So she needed to sleep on the streets. It was very dangerous, so that's why she tried to be very careful, but at the end she just slept on the streets. She said that it would be very difficult to return with Sosa, also with Ingrid, and she didn't want to return with Dr. Heller, so there you go. Then winter arrived, and she started, like, coughing a little bit. Then it was a little bit more, then it was a little bit more and more, until she started coughing blood, and she just fainted. When she woke up, she was in a hospital, and she said like, how come, like, I survived the war, I survived this, I survived something else, but not a broken heart. So, well, like, she's super sad. And finally she says that, like, she got new clothes, she got new, like a bath, a shower, and finally I think this is Soso. So when she goes to see Soso, Soso told her like, hey, your parents are looking for you. Not your parents, your uncle too, the one that is in German. So she's like, my uncle, my parents, like, yes, you have been disappeared for 3 months. So when, like, her parents call her, they have a conversation, and Marjane told them like, hey, can I return? And her parents like, yes, sure thing, you can just, like, come here and we will receive you. So Marjane says like, well, I will just return, but don't ask me what happened in these 3 months. They accepted. So she said that she went with Dr. Heller just to pick up her stuff, but Dr. Heller was like, oh, that is just your suitcase, like, the rest I will just take it in count because of the brooch you stole from me. So here we said that she stayed in a hotel for 5 days before her flight, and the only thing she was doing is smoking. She was smoking cigarettes. She was just like trying to pass the time. And finally, we have that the last day she wore the veil again, and she said like, well, here I am again, and I feel with no liberties, with no nothing. So we have the next chapter that is called The Return. And we have here that once she arrived to her country, she saw her parents. Her parents changed. They didn't recognize her. And then she was a little bit sad. So that's why she tried not to say anything. Once she arrived to her house, she said like, well, this is my room. Finally my room. And well, that's it. She started feeling like at home. Next day, she saw that snow, and she thought like, oh, it's very different to appreciate snow from behind a window. And then she started looking around her room to check what she had, and she said like, well, I have nothing. And I don't want, to be punk anymore, because that was just, well, she said like, what a shit. And she's looking for some tapes because she is in the mood for listening to some music, but she doesn't find the tapes. So she go and ask her mother, and her mother says like, well, I just gave them to a cousin. And Marjane says like, well, she didn't do anything wrong, because like they thought like I will never return. She decides to change, so that's why she started cleaning her room and doing some stuff. And when she goes outside, she saw that everything has changed. The murals, the name of the streets, everything had changed. So she is like, she felt like she were just stepping on a cemetery. So she's like, I cannot stand this, and she returned to her house. Once she is in her house, she saw also that her parents are pessimist, very pessimist about the future, about everything. They mention like, probably we have 1 or 2 peaceful days, but later on we will have another war, and something else will happen, and this and that. So she saw that, well, they were very negative. Later on, we have that finally her parents, oh well, her father told her what happened in the 4 years she was outside. And he mentioned that, well, it was war, and then more war. And finally, he mentioned that at some point, Iraq was bombing Tehran. Like as many bombs as they could, they were doing it. And in return, there was something called the Mujahideen, the Mujah something, that it just, the combatant, the soldiers. And they were against the regime in Iran. It seems that they were Iranian also, and they entered to Iran from an Iraq area. So because they entered from Iraq, people thought that they were Iraqis. So they killed them. But they were, in order to help Iranians. So, well, at the end, since they arrived to Tehran, that is the capital, the people from the regime, from Iran, they started, having fear, like, oh no, they arrived, so we have to do something. And since they had a lot of revolutionaries still in the prisons, they told them like, okay, you can quit to their beliefs and you will be released, or you will be executed. And they were executed. A lot of people were executed. So Marjane is like, how many? And said like thousands. And then we have thousands because of the war. And then we have a lot of victims because of chemical weapons. And then we have people that they are injured. They lost, an arm, a leg. Maybe they are blind. So Marjane is like, a lot of people died. And in comparison with this, the things that I live in Vienna, it's nothing. So she's having some feelings because of this too. Then we have the joke that is chapter 31, and we have that Marjane's family start visiting her. We have the neighbors, we have the uncle, we have, like a lot of relatives. But the only relative she wants to see is her grandmother. Her grandmother was the last one. And well, later on we have the friends. And Marjane says like, oh, they are very different. Like they look like stars. Like why? What? And well, we have here that at the end Marjane says like that was a way of them to survive the crisis they were living, like to copy. So that's, like, well, I don't know what we can have in common because they are very different now. We don't have, like something in common, but well, there you go. And, like one day she's sad because of that. She said, like, I have no friends, like my friends now, they are very different from in the past. So like I want to speak with somebody. And they remember, like her mother, her grandmother, and her, they remember the friends she used to play in the streets when she was younger. Remember that there was a situation with, I think it's Ramain, a kid whose father was, like killing communists and revolutionaries. Well, here we have that Marjane reminds him, and she's like, oh, I want to see him. But her mother and her grandmother says like, well, you can go, but what? He's disabled. So, discapacitado. So here we have that she doesn't care about it. She calls him and they agree. They set up an appointment. And she goes to his house and she's like, what if he is, like disfigured? Or what if he doesn't have a leg? What if? But at the end she's like, well, he's my friend. Once she arrived to the apartment, she saw him and she realized that she wasn't using one arm. So she's like, well, I don't want to see him. I don't want to be very, very obvious. So they start just talking about their lives, about, like all the experiences we have here, like Ramin was the name of the kid. And they are just talking a little bit about that. They are laughing. They are spending a good time. And this guy that his name is Kia, he told Marjane that he is expecting the visa in order to go to United States because he has an uncle there who will help him with some prostheses. So like that was it. They continue talking, and then his friend told her a joke. And the joke, it was that a soldier, stepped on a mine, he exploded, and then later on, the stretcher bearers, that it would be camilleros, start picking up all the pieces. They took all the pieces to a hospital, and after millions of surgeries, he was, like as new again. Because it was a miracle, his family told him like, hey, we want you, like to find love. We like we will help you to get married. So finally he like found a girl. They agree with the dowry, with like the party and everything, and they got married. And like the night of their marriage, they are just about to have sex. And the girl noticed that his penis wasn't in between his legs, but in his hip. So imagine, like probably a little bit, like under his belly button. And she said like, oh no, this is, like a fraud. Like they told me you will be a good merchandise, but you are not good merchandise. So I want the divorce. And the guy says like, okay, kiss my ass. And his ass was here. So they start laughing and laughing and laughing. And at the end, she said like, well, like everybody has their own problems. Everybody is able to stand their own problems. And well, Some of she tried to put herself in her friend's shoes with no arm, no leg, and she said like probably that would be unbearable for me. So my problems are bearable, so that's why everybody has, like their own issues, and we should be happy with those, with that. So that's it. And like that is the end of the chapter. Then we have the last one, skiing. So skiing, that is, like the sport that you do sliding on ice. So we have here that her family, after a little bit, they start giving them advice like, hey, you should do this, you should do that, like what if you this, what if you that. And the only thing she wants to do is like, hey, I live very, very sad things in Vienna, so please don't tell me that. So please, she wants everybody to please her. And in order to do that, she started getting a little bit like depressed. She doesn't want to go outside. She, like she doesn't find anything to make her happy. Not even, like food. Not even spending time with her parents. Not even her grandmother's joke. And she said that she started watching a TV program, a Japanese TV program, where like it was a woman who was living in the countryside. She moved to the city. She started working as a hairdresser, and she said like, a hairdresser. She got married, but the mother-in-law says like, oh, you are not enough for my son. You are not this, you are not that. And Marjane didn't understood why being a hairdresser wasn't enough. Until somebody told her that because, like being a geisha didn't match with, like the religion and the Islamic morals, they changed it for a hairdresser. So it's like, that was it. That was it. And here we have that because she was very depressed, her friends invite her to ski. And even though her friends did his best, she was like, I just want to lay down, to have a sunbath, and to spend a nice time. So leave me alone. And here we have that after it, like a ladies' conversation, they start asking her about sex. Like, hey, have you had sex? Like, what does it feel like? Like, what happened? This and that. And Marjane mentioned, like, okay, I just have few experiences. And they said, like, oh, it wasn't just with one person. So, like here, what is the difference between you and a whore, a prostitute? And Marjane says, like, well, even though if they look very modern, they come from a very, very traditionalist culture. So also hormones, also probably envy, also a lot of stuff, but they got upset. So once she returned, she says like, well, like I don't feel good, mom. Like nothing pleasures me. Like I feel empty. I feel this. I feel that. And her mother recommended her to go to a psychologist. So once they are in the psychologist, oh, she tries many psychologists until one psychologist that told her like, hey, you need pills. And Marjane says like, excellent doctor, thank you so much. She started taking the pills, and as a consequence, she was dizzy all the time. And when she was not dizzy, she was unhappy because she didn't feel like an Iranian anymore. She didn't feel like European because she was an outsider when she was there. She was having these cultural feelings because she doesn't belong to any place. And one time her parents go to see the Caspian Sea, she took the decision to commit suicide. She's about to do it. She said like she is just copying what she saw in some movies, but she couldn't do it the first attempt. So the second attempt, she took a lot of pills, and her pills just made her to sleep 3 days. And when she woke up, she was having some hallucinations. Once she returned with the doctor says like, well, I don't want to tell you that this is a miracle, but this is a miracle because usually that was the doses to kill an elephant. And well, at the end, Marjane says like, "Oh, this is enough. I don't want this anymore." And she says that she's starting to change. First of all, by removing all hair from her body, because like in this Islamic culture, hair is not sacred, but like a lot of people is hairy. So she said like, "Oh no, I want to remove all my hair." Also, she changed her clothes. She buy new shoes. She has a new hairstyle, and she's a modern woman now, sophisticated. She also start, like exercising until she became an aerobic instructor, and well, she is ready for her new destiny. She is ready for the next things. And that is the end of the chapter. The next one is just the exam. And well, guys, so far, I think that the story is very different from the beginning. Still, Marjane is having a lot of controversial thoughts and feelings. We probably understand a little bit how she is feeling now because she was in a country where she was a foreigner, and when she returned to her country, she still is a stranger because everything changed in the 4 years she was outside. And well, now, even if she tried to commit suicide and everything because she was depressed, it was on her to get up and continue with her life. So far, that is it for this session. I really hope that you enjoy this book because next session it will be the last one. So, well, thank you so much for being here, and I see you on Thursday. Bye, guys!
We gather around and chat all day. New words to learn in every way. No fear of wrong, just give it a try. We're flying high like birds in the sky. From A to Z we say hello. Each day we watch our language grow. Together we will break the ice. In Talk English we find paradise. Right now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. Hey now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. With laughter, jokes and stories told. In conversation, hearts unfold. We share, we learn, we understand. Building bridges hand in hand. No grammar rules can hold us still. We're climbing higher up that hill. Every sentence, every phrase. In Talk English, we like the blaze. In Talk English, we like the blaze. Hey now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. Hey now, let's talk in English, hear us loud.